It's been nearly 1 week, well, in fact, 6 days since I first picked up this all-electric 2026 Chevrolet Equinox. And, well, the weather has been, well, to put it nicely, crappy. We've had our first winter snowstorm, and we're only barely halfway through November. However, my spirits have not been dampened one little bit. The Habanero Orange, I'll tell you, does help because I love color. Color is good. Enough with the grays and the blacks. But that's besides the point. The thing is, from the very moment, and I'm very late to the game, from the very moment that I first picked up the Chevy Equinox EV, I saw a flash of light, a flash of understanding. Because within minutes, seriously within minutes, I understood why this compact all-electric SUV is so popular. Just to give you a brief idea of numbers, at least as far as where the Equinox and Chevrolet or GM is concerned, in the first half of 2025, nearly 1 out of 4 electric vehicles sold in Canada were GM products. That is humongous. And of all EVs sold in Canada in the first half, the second best-selling model was this, behind the Tesla Model Y, but anyway. In Quebec, the Equinox EV is insanely popular. Quebec, that's where I'm from. So just to give you an idea, as I'm driving around in the greater Montreal area over the last few days, I see them everywhere. At an intersection, it has happened where there were 3 of us, almost face to face, different trims, different colors, sadly black or gray, but thankfully Chevrolet does have some very interesting blue and red and Habanero Orange. And all that to say is that within minutes of driving away in this Equinox EV, the brilliance behind the product dawned on me. I mean, it washed over me. I'll give you more details. Obviously, as I suppose some of you may think, the video drags on, but hey, that's the way I operate. What can I tell you? But the ride comfort, the overall build quality impression, the equipment, the size, the styling, and the price, the value. It makes so much sense. It made me think about, say, like the Toyota Corolla in the 80s and 90s and the Honda Civic, as far as that's concerned too, or even like the Ford Taurus in the 1990s and maybe the Ford Escape in the 2000s. You know, there's always this one vehicle that makes so much sense, that answers so many questions and responds so perfectly to consumer needs that it just blows up. And this, at least in 2025, introduced in 2024, the Chevy Equinox is all of those things. It really, truly is. And after almost 6 days, okay, not quite a week, it still makes a lot of sense. It happens often that my first impressions are really strong and then they dwindle, drop, whatever. But not so. Despite the weather conditions, the snowstorm, the cold, all the dampness, this vehicle is wow. Following video, typical tour, inside and out, pricing information, and then the drive. I'll be honest, at first, I wasn't really sold on the styling, especially up front of the Equinox, but that quickly dissipated. That sentiment that maybe Chevrolet had gone a little bit too far in the design elements. But I've seriously moved on from that, thinking that it's unique yet still familiar crossing over to an SUV design absolutely works. This model, as you may have spotted as we went around the back, is an RS, so it's a sporty trim. That explains all the blacked out stuff. Let's talk about pricing right now. So the base front-wheel drive LT starts at $49,633 with fees. With that, you get a standard 17.7-inch screen, adaptive cruise control, 11-inch digital cluster, 19-inch wheels, heated front seats and steering wheel, and Google built in a whole bunch of other stuff. $3,500 is what you need to spend to get up to the all-wheel drive, so the LT all-wheel drive. The RS, as I've mentioned, front-wheel drive is $54,633. With that, well, you get 21-inch wheels, power tailgate, EvoTech seats, I'll show that to you, and a bunch of other features. Again, with all that's $54,633. An extra $3,500 will get you the RS all-wheel drive at $58,133. That's fees included, not taxes, of course. I know it's still insane money. It doesn't make any sense to me either, but it's actually very decent. So hopefully it'll work, there it is. So that's the AutoSense tailgate that you get with the RS, which reveals 748 liters of trunk space, and you get some generous, well, underfloor storage as well. This is absolutely a selling point, at least it is for me. Good stuff, good space. These door handles much better than, say, what you might get in other brands where you have to pull. This one you still have to pull, but the angle or the positioning is far better. Overall dimensions, I guess we could just mention it. The wheelbase is just shy of 3 meters, so there's a lot. You can see how the overhangs are nearly non-existent. So that means a lot of interior space. Look at this. This is insane for a compact-ish SUV. The amount of space back here is tremendous. You can see the EvoTech's red and black interior, which is an option on my tester. But the seats themselves are very comfortable. Power lumbar support. We can slide on board. So it greets you and says hello as soon as you press the brake pedal. And there's your 11-inch display. There's your 17.7-inch touchscreen. It's, generally speaking, with Google built in, I mean, the only fault here is no CarPlay, no Android Auto. And GM has said they won't discontinue it on certain models, but as far as their EVs are concerned, you won't get it. But once you overlook that, which I think most of us aren't quite ready yet, you also get Alexa and all that, everything works quite well. I mean, displays are fantastic. I'll show you the drive modes right now. I've been in my mode. I'll tell you a little bit more about that soon. Storage is brilliant. Look how deep that is. That is very, very deep. And I do love the physical buttons there. Should the screen take a lot of time to load, which all week it hasn't. This is fantastic under here as well. My tester actually has a few options, including the convenience package, which gives you the power passenger seat and a few other options, such as the cooled seats. That's a big package, and it also has a Super Cruise, which is part of the active safety package, for a grand total of about $68,000. You ask me, you don't need any of that, though, you know, it's nice to haves. So just to quickly get back to the design differences, so you can see what you get with the RS. Everything is blacked out. Your headlights and your LEDs. You know what, from down here, this angle, it doesn't look all that bad. So the black 21-inch wheels and the black trim is all part of the RS package. And I think the Habanero combinations really, really works well. At the black roof rails, there's actually a black roof option too, which this one doesn't have, and I think it's the better for it. Well, at this point, I think what we're going to do is we're going to get on the road. So as we go on, I think you can see it. There are various different displays you can select from, which is kind of nice. I do love the twin round gauges, which are right there. Things to know. So I mentioned front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. If you do get the front-wheel drive, or the all-wheel drive for that matter, it's a one standard size battery, 85 kilowatt hour battery. With the front-wheel drive layout setup, you are entitled to 220 horsepower, 243 pound-feet of torque, and the battery on a full charge will give you up to 513 kilometers of range, which is, you cannot possibly ever really need any more than that. Unless you want more power, of course. Because with the twin motor setup, you have access to 300 horsepower and 355 pound-feet of torque. Range drops only slightly to 494 kilometers. If you ask me, in real world driving, that's almost identical. The power figures are quite nice. I mean, I set up my mode as I mentioned. I think you can probably see it a little bit. So steering is on normal, brake feel is on normal, acceleration is on sport, and there's no motor sound. That's basically it. That's the basics of the basics. Because look, the power, it's not the quickest, it's not the sharpest handling, it's not any of that, but it is probably one of the better sorted out vehicles in its price range. Because as you can probably see down here on the screen, you have one pedal driving. So just a one touch, and immediately you can do one pedal driving. This is true one pedal driving where the SUV will actually come to a full stop. I didn't show you before, you do have another option. Say you want to get out of one pedal driving to experience the full thrust or ease of driving, and you can use the steering wheel mounted paddle, which is a switch. I mean, there's no progressiveness to it. It's on or off and it'll slow down. Detail, higher priced models, it is progressive, but that's truly a detail. But what isn't a detail, what for me sold the Equinox almost immediately, is the urban, just general ride comfort. So I'm gonna go back into that. It is so wonderfully sorted out. The suspension's travel forgiveness, ability to cope with horrible roads, and this despite the 21-inch wheels, is extraordinary. Now, I do like to test the vehicles. As soon as you start pushing it a little bit and demanding, rapid transitions, weight transfers, and stuff like that, the suspension becomes quickly unsettled and unhappy. But 99.99% of everyone who will drive this vehicle will drive it as I am now, with ease, with reason, perhaps is the word I should look for. It's tremendous. It's quiet. I mean, I found the Leaf to be very quiet. This, I think, is even quieter. It's just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I feel like I'm talking nonsense and gibberish, which does happen. As far as recharge, 150 kilowatts. It's fine. It's perfectly suited, I think, to the real world. A little bit of acceleration. I mean, it's not mind-blowing, but hey, if you're stepping out of a petrol Equinox, this will still feel like a rocket. If you're stepping out of most petrol-powered SUVs in a segment, it will feel like a rocket. Frankly, I'm a little bit shocked as to how much I actually really like this 2026 Chevrolet Equinox EV. I mean, in the segment, there are so many valiant players. The Hyundai Ioniq 5, Kia EV6, slightly more expensive, maybe a little bit bigger when the Kia EV5 shows up, though that may change a few things. But if you mix that in with the Kia Niro, the new Nissan Leaf, a bunch of those quasi-entry-level electric vehicles, this one is really at the crossroads of affordability, of drivability, of efficiency, range, power. I don't know if Chevrolet knew exactly what they were doing when they put this together, but it truly is, I don't know, it's something the formula should be emulated in all future EVs, at least the GM anyhow, because it again strikes me the extent at which I would actually keep one of these. It's a little too small for my family needs, but for everything else, it is, in short, impressive.